Up to this point, we've been doing everything based on that spline IK. Now we're going to take a deviation away and we're going to set up the stretchy system. Now the stretchy system is going to use something called an expression, which is code that's going to trigger every time a frame goes by. Matter of fact, let me move my frame back to 1. And we're going to need to grab, it really doesn't matter what we're grabbing in here, something in our scene, and then any attribute, because when I first go up here, this is where our expression window is, and I need to have some type of attribute selected, just like set-driven keys. It brings up this window. Now, by far the most important thing is that up in select filter, we need to have expression by name up here, by expression name. Because if we don't, if we have the object one selected, it's actually going to erase our code every time we select a new object, which will put you through a psychotic episode. Okay, so now that we have our expression, we're going to type up here. Now this is actually, let's see, I call this backspline. And I'm going to say underscore exp. Now your first reaction is, hey, let's hit new expression here. No, that should be called clear expression because that wipes out everything that's below, which can also give you a psychotic episode. So inside here, in our expression, I'm going to type the keyword print. Now it is what's called case sensitive. So a capital P in front of print will not be the same thing as lowercase p. Then I'll have open and close parentheses and a semicolon. Now that we have this, anything the text-based inside these parentheses is going to give us output back to the user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put double quotes in here, and I'm going to say hi. Everything in this double quote will just print out. Now how we create this expression is we go on a create. Okay, and it says result backspline exp. Good. And when I move my time slider, it says hi. Now it's kind of a creepy little expression because remember, it runs for every single every single frame it actually runs. See, it's like hi, like that. And it keeps on going hi. So I just wanted to make sure it worked. Establishing that first expression is really important because it doesn't pop up here until we do that. It's very unlikely that you're going to make a mistake on this simple line. So we start up really, really basic and we go from there. So now that we have that, let's explain what we're going to do for our stretchy system. So we have our joints in here. Just going to move this over to the side. We have our joints and I go through. Now our first joint has X, Y, and Z. And you're probably like, oh no, I see rotations. The spline IK put the rotations on there. That's fine. If I delete the spline IK and zeros out, it'll go right back to where it was. The more curve we have on our back, the more values it's going to put onto it. So a really extreme curve is going to jostle and move things around a little bit. So our first one has translate X, Y, and Z. But our second one only has translate X, along with all the children joints. So if I grab all my children joints, except of course the root, so I'm just going to shift select these, and I go into my X axis here, and I middle mouse drag up and down. You see how it's stretching and squashing now? That's one of those reasons why I want those really clean values on our joints. Because if this was multiple X, Y, and Z, this would be a lot harder to do. It would be a much more difficult expression to set up. In this case, all we got to do is take this spring that we have here, and this spring is like sitting on your desk and it's relaxed. We need to record all the values of that relaxed state for his stretchy back. Then we're going to add and subtract from that system, or more like multiply and divide from that system. So first thing I'm going to do now is get rid of this print statement hi, and I'm going to go into that first joint, well, second joint here. I'm going to copy this, I'm going to hit Command C and paste it in my expression like that. So in this expression, it knows what this object is now. If it's spelled correctly, it knows right to go to it. And if I say dot tx like that, tx stands for translate X. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing the translate X attribute that's connected to the center to back joint. Now I'm going to put this equal sign, which this always confuses people. It's actually not an equal sign. This is what's called an assignment operator. We're going to assign something into the translate X of the second binding joint on our back. So our resting point right now is this value. So I'm going to hit Command C, Command V, like that, and put 0.762. So this joint's resting point is 0.762. And I'm going to finish this line off with a semicolon. I'm going to test each line of this so I make sure it's right. Now when I hit edit, do you see how I changed it from TX to translate X? It always does it. It always expands from the short name to the long name when you got everything right. So that's actually really, really good to see on here. So if I go to the third joint here, and type in .tx, and I'm going to assign on the third joint our value. Now I ask you, is this doing anything to our back? And it's no, because these are resting points. Whoops. Actually, that was not right. I put 2 on there. Okay, it did move a little bit when I did that, so it's you have to be very careful that you're not doing the other ones. Luckily, I had my value here, so I didn't erase what it was doing. Okay, so let's check our joints. You'll notice now, joint 1 still has nothing because we're not putting expression on it. Joint 2 has this purple bar. The purple bar means expression, just like blue is constraint and yellow is direct connection and orange is keyframing. So we'll go to 4.tx, and that's 8.36. Now, I ask you, do you think these are going to be the same values on your system? No, they're not, because depending upon the distance your joints are from each other, these are all going to be different. So let's go through here. Okay, that's 9.16. Now, the reason why I'm going through one by one on here, and you probably say I can copy and paste those over and over again, because our last joint isn't bind, it's waist, and we still want that one as part of our stretchy back because it's the last joint. It's funny, you can actually do this through scale as well. I'm going to do 2 lines at once. So don't forget that waist joint. That one's easy to forget. Okay, hit edit, and they all have them on it. So let me show you what happens when I misspell something. If I say bind here, it gives us an error, and it really doesn't tell us, there's no line numbers and doesn't tell them exactly what's the issue. So you do have to be careful. Expressions are kind of raw on their system, so you got to be really, really careful. So this is our beginning point. In the next podcast, we're going to show how to do the stretchy. Right now, we're just kind of priming and setting up our expression.